I'd love to pick your brain on this because people ask me all the time, Adam, how do I find out who I am? How do I go find who I am? Who am I? What am I supposed to be doing? And I tell them it comes down to two key factors. Yeah. That's why I built the Attachment Bootcamp course to cover these two factors. First, number one is your core principles, right? The honor code you follow, the philosophy you follow, the religion you follow, whatever it might be, your core deciding factors, right? When something happens, how will I conduct myself? My sense of right and wrong. And the research sadly shows that only about 10% of the population really has that core internal, this is right, this is wrong, I will do what is truly right. About 90% of people are driven by that fear and by that confusion. And at minimum, at best, I should say, they are saying, I will do what others have defined as right so that nothing bad happens to me, or so other people will think I am good. That 10% have those principles. The second piece of this is your long-term goals. It could be the legacy you're creating, right? Twitter parlance is mission, the mission you are on, but your long-term purpose that you are crafting, whatever you are guiding toward, and the way that you will conduct yourself along that pathway, that is who you are. So it sounds like to me, and here's where I really want to get your thoughts, those are the two key elements to me that speak to who a person is. And if they're truly liberated, they are able to follow those two key things in every circumstance. Do you agree with that? Is there two? Is there additionals? What do you think there?
I love the two. I would love to add a third, just to play advocate for, multiple realities here. I don't know if y'all talk about psychedelics on the show or not, Andre. I don't know if that's something that y'all get into, but there is other realms. There's other realms than just the 3D realm we play in. I'm not here to wax poetic or get super esoteric with y'all, but I would add a third, and I would say that there are many things that we inherit both in utero, epigenetically, and I get almost interstitially from our past, where the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Like that's an old adage that we've heard, right? And so I would stack a third on top of that, Adam. Now, the two that you have could be standalone in a life's work of their own. It's not to take away from your two. It's just to add potentially a third, and that is have an understanding of how your emotional epigenetics impacts who you are and how you show up. Because a lot of times, if you look at the work specifically of Mark Wolin, who's the author of It Didn't Start With You, he's the president of the Family Constellations Institute. He talks about in his work, and we really are starting to understand just the scratching of the surface of how we carry on trauma response and how we carry on the way that we behave with others, that yes, definitely, Adam, applies to attachment and applies to the deep work that you do, but also applies to how we even came into this world and how we were formed during the stress time of our mother in utero, and how she was stressed by our grandparents and our great-great. These are all things that I think both psychology and science are just barely starting to wrap their head around that are super exciting for us. There's one specific study, just lastly here, that I'll mention, and it was in a university in Africa, and they stressed out the male rat, the male rodent, almost to death, I believe, in this study. And I'll send you guys the link so we can really have the science on this. And they checked the hormonal response, the fear response, 4 generations forward from that father who was stressed. And that father, by the way, had mated with non-stressed out females. And the same physiological response, the same cortisol response showed up in that 4th generation rat, even though that rat had not been stressed out. Now, that is science and spirituality telling us that we are epigenetically a byproduct of the lineage that came before us. And I think that weaves into the other two, Adam, that you're talking about. This is a really fascinating thing for me, the emotional epigenetics of who we are, how we show up in the world. It's freaking fascinating.
I love this so much. People don't realize how much of your attachment is derived not only from the behaviors you experience, but then also understanding how to surround yourself with the proper environment so that you can manage these factors like this. Because it's not just I am an existing entity who has no connection with anybody else. You then connect with other people. You then create environments. You then foster situations which can be harmful or nurturing and conducive to your genetics and to your attachment. It is not simply, this is where I am and I will always be stuck here. It is, this is who I am and this is what I require, and I will foster this and build this and nurture this, even with other people.
So I want to pitch an idea to you guys. And there's also, the famous saying that with great power comes great responsibility. I would suggest an adjustment. I would suggest an adjustment that with great freedom comes great responsibility. And this is actually an area where having freedom, the liberation you're talking about, Josh, actually means great responsibility, because liberation may be misunderstood by many that you're going into some form of I will do anything I want, I have no responsibility to anybody, and this is a completely false notion. It is a false notion based on the science of attachment, that you're actually going to be damaging or impacting positively or negatively all of your relationships, past, but now we're talking about future, right? We're saying that what you choose to do with your life is going to impact your children, 4, 5, 6, how many other generations forward. So you actually do not have a right necessarily to go and create those damaging relationships going forward, not just in your present, not just in your past. So there's this idea of a huge amount of responsibility. And again, we all know where that conversation comes from. So that's something I really do enjoy. And the conversations are on responsibility. But that is something that is needing to be defined.
If you like this clip, I know you're going to enjoy the full episode. You can watch it right here.